Hello and welcome to the Gemhawks YouTube channel. I hope you're having a really beautiful day today, no matter what it is you're doing. So for today's free tutorial here on YouTube, we are going to go for some easy hoop drop earrings. Right now in the UK, it's grey and it's a Sunday morning. So let's have something easy like a Sunday morning. Let's head down to the board and take a closer look. So here are our easy hoop drop earrings. Just using a single gauge of wire and a handful of beads. I'm using four 4mm beads, four 2mm beads, four little tiny spacers, a couple of short lengths of 1mm or 18 gauge wire, and a couple of longer lengths of that 18 gauge or 1mm wire. So let's just pop these up into the corner. And let's crack on making these. So when I'm making earrings, I try to make them symmetrically opposing one another. And one of the ways that you can help that to happen is by making them bit by bit. So you do one thing on one piece of wire and then immediately repeat it on the second. And in that way, you should end up with similar earrings. Admittedly, people generally wear them on the opposite side of the head, and it can be quite tricky to see any minor imperfections, but if you are looking to make your jewellery to sell and gift, then it's nice to have that level of precision. So we're going to put a right angle bend about 2 or so inches from one end. And I'll do both of those at the same time, just so that I know I've got a very similar amount of wire to play with. We're going to add some more detail onto that in a second, but I wanted to talk to you about tools. Now, in terms of a round form, I've got these really beautiful wooden round mandrels from Beadalon. This is the largest one I have, which is 1 inch or 25mm. And it's not quite large enough for what I want. However, my round form, which is a bangle mandrel, is just a little bit too large for what I want. So I've got this little solid perfume pot, and it's the exact right size. So you don't always have to have professional tools. Do feel free to grab whatever you have around the home. So I'm going to use the glass part. It's a good solid glass, and I'm just going to create a round form with the longer tail of that wire and draw that over the top like so. And what I will then do is exactly the same on the other one. So just bit by bit is how this would work. Now, I'm not going to do the whole thing twice because that would make for a very boring video. But what you would do is just once you've created one side, do that on the other side as well. So the next thing we're going to do is to just grip a hold, make sure that that fits the round form. And in that way, you'll get a repeatable size on your design. So let's grab the tail, the long tail that's sticking out, and just flip that around at around about a right angle so that you know it will cross over with your upright section. I'm not trying to advertise the company whose perfume pot this is, although I do like it. So I'm just going to pinch that little bit of wire like so, so that you get a really nice tidy loop around there. Draw the wire all the way around. So at the moment, it's come around the upright and gone off in the same direction, which is more than adequate. However, I quite like the detail of having that come back on itself one more time. I'm going to slide that off the form and just make sure that everything is straight. So you can see it's slightly on the wonk there. So I'm just going to push that into position. You can do that on the form, but it just makes it a bit tricky for you to see what it is I'm doing. So I'm going to give that a little bit of a pinch, and then make sure that that tiny spiral or coil is nice and neat and tidy. And I've got the tail of wire coming away one side, like so. So as I said, I would repeat that on the other side and just give myself a pair of those. Because I don't want my videos to end up 48 years long, I'm just going to do the second section of each technique just off screen and join you back down at the board in a second so that you can see without having to sit through me doing it for a second time. So what you might notice is that I have done these in a symmetrically opposite fashion, in so much as the wire looped behind on one side and is going off to the left with that tail of wire on the front of the design. And on the other piece, it went around in the opposite direction. So the wire has come across the front and to the right. As I mentioned a second ago, I'm not going to show you every single step twice. So for the piece with the wire streaming out towards the right hand side, we're going to demonstrate this one. When you use the piece with the wire streaming out to the left, you'll just need to reverse everything over. So the first thing we're going to do is to put some lovely warmth and heat in this design. I'm going to pinch that little coil up at the top and just draw the wire back around, so you get this nice little swooshing section going on over the surface. Then what we're going to do is move to the end of that sticky outy bit of wire, grab those round nose pliers and start around about halfway down. What we will begin to do is just rotate that around as if we're creating a coil, but with a larger open centre. Don't completely finish the coil, because then it's much easier to switch to your chain nose pliers and start pushing that into the open centered spiral. So just keep rotating that, pinching everything firmly so you don't lose that lovely swoosh up at the top. And then we're looking to centralize that open centered coil. So by the time you have done that twice, you should have some reasonably symmetrically opposing earrings to work with. With the easy hoop drop earrings, you don't have to follow the exact protocol with regards to which beads and spacers to use. You can even, instead of just having the single dangle from the little open spiral, which I'm going to show you now, you could have multiple dangles. You could have bits of chain, you could have charms, whatever you fancy. Really like to give you options when you're designing jewellery so that you can take it and make it completely your own. So to make the dangly drop part in the centre of our easy hoop earrings, we're going to now use a 2-inch length of 1mm or 18 gauge wire. We're going to make our own little drop piece. The wire is flush cut both ends, and I'm going to start right at the end of my round nose pliers just to make a small loop shape. And we're just going to turn that into a double rotation little spiral going on. So push that all the way around until you get that 2 turns of wire. Give that a bit of a squish to make it nice and strong, and then we'll turn the tail of wire away from that spiral at 90 degrees so you get this nice little drop effect. Now the beads I'm working with are 4mm round. If I can find the bead hole, that would be amazing. Hopefully you'll have better luck than me. So I've gone for a 4mm round, and then in a different colour a little daisy spacer, and then a 2mm round in yet a different colour. So I'm working with copper wire today, and I've added a black obsidian bead, a silver daisy spacer and a rose gold smaller bead. Now, in order to reflect the spiral that we made in the hoop earring, I'm going to reflect the direction of that spiral in my drop. So on this earring, the spiral will be moving in the clockwise direction, and on the other earring, it will be moving anti-clockwise to reflect the spiral it's connecting into. So I'm going to hold that in the correct orientation, put my thumbnail over the bead, and just draw that wire forwards at about 45 to 50 degrees, like so, and then we'll use those round nose pliers again to create an openable simple loop. So just rotate that around until the end of the wire touches the angle change. I've overestimated the size there, so it's relatively easy to just pull that into position to make sure that it closes up. Give that a little bit of a squish, and then make sure that end does meet. Open that little loop up as if you're opening a jump ring, and then pop that inside that little open double spiral we created earlier. Your beads might wobble around, don't worry about it. And then we're just going to hold that in position so you can see that that is through the loop, and we'll close that simple loop back up, again ensuring that the cut end meets the angle change. Give it a squish when it's in position, and that's the most part of your easy hoop drop earring done. All we will do now is repeat the design up at the top of that earring, of that hoop, finding the hole in. I haven't slept in 4 months, excuse me. Let's pop that bead on to the post and then add our chosen order of other beads. I've got a spacer, and then I've got a little 2mm in rose gold, and then I'm going to go for a wrapped loop up at the top. Now, because my earring findings have loops that come forwards, it means I'm going to need to make a loop that comes sideways. so that those two items will fit together neatly. Just going to push the wire over to the side using my pliers to create a gap. And then it's going to need to be a little loop up at the top. Rotate that around with your round nose pliers. Just going to need to centralise that loop if it's gone slightly awry. There we go. And then hold the loop shape whilst you just wrap the tail of wire around that last little neck section of the design. Now when you get in there, it can get a little bit easier to do if you grab a second set of pliers to hold that loop. And then you can just chase that tail of wire all the way around. Push that until it sits. I've gone for 2.5 visible wraps, making sure that that sits at the back of the design before I trim that last teeny tiny bit of wire away. Just putting my thumb over the top so it doesn't ping up and destroy my camera, which happened one time, so I'll never forget that. And then we're just going to tidy that last little section of wire away. Again, you can make your life slightly easier by holding the loop above with a second set of flat facing pliers, making sure you don't get too close to the wrapping section in case you kind of squish that out of form. All that remains is to add in your ear wire after you have completed the same manoeuvre on the second side, and you'll see that each of the spirals are kind of in line with each other. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed my easy like a Sunday morning drop hoop earrings. Have yourself a beautiful day, and I look forward to seeing you back here soon. If you'd like to learn how to make this guitar pendant, let me know in the comments down below or send me a message on social media. Have a beautiful day and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.